and 1990. Okay, I did a new century, but 1990. And then in 1991, I just made a few models. 92, did it part-time in a chicken house on a farm. In 93, we bought the building that you just walked through. It didn't open, the school didn't open for the fall of 1992. So in spring of 93, we purchased that. This building we added about 10 years ago. We put a lean-to on this last year. We wanted to show you here the raw material that we start with for the heads. And disc blades, we do use flat blades. We even use a few of the Case IH no-tills as well as John Deere no-tills. The next thing we'll see, well, we have these in here. You can see them. We have them stacked outside too. There are certain times of the year they're easier to get than other times. When they're available, we try to get them. I pick up disc blades from I-80 in Nebraska to the width of Kansas to west of Oklahoma City in Oklahoma. We go that far south because we have a couple people there that do replacement of disc blades for a living. So I'll go to one place and pick up a whole load when I go to Oklahoma. Naturally, most of the disc blades we pick up are west of here or south in wheat country. You can see the first thing we do with a disc is grind the outside edge, and Kelly is ahead, so he's ground them and brought some out. They weren't ready to use them in the other room. If you want to touch that and see how sharp it is, you can, but just be very careful. He got that really sharp. The first thing they do when we bring them in is take them to the plasma cutters, and we actually, when we worked on this building, we actually made some excess where we can actually do more than we're now doing. We usually have one plasma cutter going and another one going part of the time. We have 3 going there. We use a pattern. We don't use a computer operated plasma cutter. There are some things that it would work real good for, but each of our disc blades is a different size, different curvature, and so maybe because we've done this for a long time, this is what we do. But so we have a pattern for each tool we make, and we just hand cut it. After we get done, we ding it over there because it does have just a little bit of slag from the cut, and then from there it actually goes to a shaker that takes the rust off, and that's across the hall a little further down. They're quite a ways ahead on the heads that they have cut out that are working on, so as you go down here you'll see quite a few. Any questions there? Okay, when they come back from the shaker, they start working on putting the edges on them. And this one, we use belt grinders for that. This would be one that has been through the shaker. You saw how rusty that raw material was out there. This has been through the shaker. The shaker has, looks like rock in it, but those rock have ceramic particles in them. So that takes the rust off. And they stay in the shaker somewhere an hour, depending on how rusted they are. We have actually 4 belt grinders. Belt grinders work a whole lot faster and do a better job than a hard stone grinder. Got them set up for different things. This here they were put under that to cut an edge on. This one's where they work the outside. Just grind around the outside to make it a nice smooth edge, as you can see here. This one over here would be used for a couple different schools, but scuffle hose. Do we have a scuffle? Yeah, here we got it. Okay, and I think those boxes are called scuffle hose. If you've not used, if you're a gardener and you've not used the scuffle hoe, I would certainly suggest you get one. They just really speed it up. We've actually had people tell us that they felt guilty when they went back in the house because they weeded their garden so fast. This is one of the later ones that we've made. And this is not a scuffle. This is actually you can roll with it with this point. You can turn it on its side and hoe, and then you can turn it up and break up sod, or a lot of times a rake just works real good for pulling brush or weeds out of an area. I had to come up with a name for it, and I could just see a VW in that. So that's what we call it, the 65 VW. So, what we do down here is where we weld the ferrule on, or we bend it. Come on down. We'll go out this door down here.
Did that variation come from some of the trail stuff that you've done, or
Not that one, but we have
before?
some of the heavier ones was trying to trail. Actually, we started out with a garden tool, one tool.
Mm-hmm.
No company wants to buy one tool. They don't want to mess around with somebody that just has one tool. So it wasn't long till we started doing something so they could go out and take out weeds. And our first example of that was not too successful. We tried to use a bent shank, and that just wasn't strong enough. So now we use a head like this. We use a head like this and weld the ferrule right on the back side. And so that it's directly attached to the handle with no shank. And those have worked out really well. Well, they started using those. And then firefighters started using these some, but they contacted us and wondered if we could make something bigger and a little more. They had some requests. So we actually used a hotshot crew in Oregon for our people to look at what we made and decide whether it would work for them. And they would either say, yes, it will, or sometimes they'd say, no, it won't for us, but it will for such and such. And I think there should be some firefighting tools in that cabinet back there. Okay, all right, you got some there. Okay, good. Trail builders are very big customers of ours. There's a lot more trail building goes on than we think in Kansas. If we want to walk, we take off down a country road. But if you're in a city, then a lot of people want to walk on trails through the trees, or they ride bicycles. And we've had people call us and say they have 100 miles of trail to keep up. And my son-in-law was riding off-road bicycle in Minneapolis, and they were working on the trail, and he stopped, and they were using our tools. And so he told them, of course they thought he'd ought to be able to get them cheaper than Okay, we weld once again. When we put this building together here after we moved our packing to the other building, well, we went where we had room to expand. So we generally have one welder going all the time. The welder here usually he welds all the time too, but he is here 3 days a week. He's semi-retired, and then we have another guy that'll step in if he wants to. But so we got a little slack in what we're doing here. You might want to this here's one of the firefighting and trail building tools. And the guy, this here is a real good weld. This guy here has not been here this week yet. He comes in tomorrow. He's been welding for a lot of years. He can make an excellent weld. So some of them we have to heat them up before we weld them so that they cool down at once and don't get brittle. The ones generally more than 3/16 of an inch. So 1/4 inches, we heat those up before we weld them. This little deal right here if any of you have used a torch, this is a gas saver. So you have your torch running, you heat your object up, you lay it on here, that shuts the gas off to the torch, but it has a pilot light. And so then when you get ready to do the other one, you just pick it up, gas comes back to the torch, you run it over the pilot light, and you're ready to go again. But you don't waste gas while you're doing something else. Deanna comes over. She ends up working at both places, but spends most of her time over at the other building. But she comes over and writes the numbers that she sees orders coming in for. So right now, she's saying she needs 190 Gs, 150 60Ss, the little numbers up at the top is something that she's added recently, but that's how many they have in here ready to weld. So this gives the guys an idea of what they ought to be working on here. When they get the heads done, like those last ones, they'll stack them in this, in a cart like this, and we'll wheel it out by the door in the back and use a forklift to pick it up and carry it over to the other place. And then they can start using it over there. If you remember the old community building, this was the stage. And you can see the outline of the stage by the different color wood there. We tried to match it, but they don't make the dimensions that they used to make. So we just did the best we could on that.
Pretty darn close.
It had a concrete floor in the back under the stage. And so the only concrete we poured was that little 8-inch strip down the center. So we can pull in there with our loader tractor and set a pallet down. Now, some of you played basketball in here, I think. But there was a goal there, and then at one time, they shortened it up there, but there was a goal at the other end. So this is the basketball floor. And we painted it with the paint with flame retardant in it, just for protection. The tools come in, so we set that tub that we showed you over there, full of tools, we're bringing in, and then they start working on them here. If there's any, we call them dingleberries, but when they weld, if there's any little specks on it, when they take that off over here. This station here is where they put the handle together, handle and the head together. And as far as we know, we're the only company that uses adhesive when we put that together. And we just have, we've had a few, just a very few examples where it wasn't done right. But if it's done right, that adhesive is stronger than the wood. And it's a wood metal adhesive, excellent for us. So they put it together. You can move over here and see this. After they put it together, they give the glue a chance to dry. And put it on this rack here. Then it goes over to the drilling machine over there. And they drill it. All the fire tools and what we call the field hose, the heavy hose, have a rivet in them. So that's riveted. That's pretty low tech. Henry Sturdad said, well, that's pretty low tech. And I said, well, actually it's mounted pretty high. So I didn't know if it's low tech or not. But then we have a paint booth back inside that door right there. And maybe you'd call it a paint closet. But we still use canned paint. We don't use a spray gun because sometimes we'll paint 10 and sometimes we'll paint 50 or 60 of them. But we buy the paint all at one time from
Nobody's
Scandia. Yeah, from the hardware store in Scandia. So we buy a year's supply at a time. Then from there, it's on rollers. So it comes down and comes into this area down here where they get ready to put the finishing touches on it. And So it's been painted. It's been, they use masking tape and paper to keep the paint off the handles. Yeah, there's some over there that still have the paper on. And then we run the edges, put a final edge on. We have one guy that's his, he does that, he likes to do that, so he'll put a final edge on and put the decal on. You can see those right there. And then it goes up to the packing table, which is up here. We've just changed this a little bit in the last few months. We were putting plastic envelopes over the head, and we've gone to using vinyl tape on the cutting edges for protection. So when they take the cardboard off the outside, they don't cut themselves on the sharp edge. And they are, if you go to the edge that is ground to be sharp, they are quite sharp. Then we put them, if we want a bundle of 10 or 12, we lay them in one of these and bundle them up. And I think that, Deanna, I think at least, I think 90% of our product goes out on either pallets, at least in bundles, right? Wholesale.
Yes. 90%
of these goes out wholesale. And so this would be some bundles that are, the second one there I see is buttery. That's in the middle of Texas. That'll get loaded up and then loaded on a truck here and sent down the road to Texas. Over here is inventory. If we need 10 of something, well, we can probably pull it out of that. If they need 100 of it, we'll build it and bring it around all the way through.